me the price moved up. Oh, good. Okay, so it hit a sell order just then, another sell order. Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a grid trading bot using Python and CCXT. Now, Larry, why are you going to use Python all of a sudden? I thought we were using JavaScript. Well, I'm doing this by popular demand. I got a number of comments saying people want to see this implemented in Python, and so I'm going to go ahead and get this bit of it out of the way and just implement a 100-line Python trading bot for people that just want to create and submit a bunch of orders automatically, and they don't necessarily care about a front end and JavaScript and all that kind of stuff. So I want to just do this part now, and if there's sufficient demand, I'll do a full stack thing where Python and JavaScript talk together. But I'm just going to make something right here that everyone can use. So I'm going to implement this in Python, and I'm going to be using CCXT. Why CCXT? Well, I've done a number of videos on Alpaca recently since they're a channel sponsor, but I want to make sure, since the majority of the audience is actually outside the United States, that they can use whatever exchange they happen to have access to. And since this provides a common interface for any number of exchanges, I want to be objective and let people use whatever exchange they want and let those people be able to follow along as well. And so this will support FTX, Binance, Gemini, whatever exchange you happen to be using. So for this particular tutorial, I'm going to use CCXT and have it execute orders on the FTX US exchange because I happen to have an account there, but you can use any other exchange that's supported by CCXT and the code should be exactly the same. So one nice thing about using FTX is they happen to have a TradingView widget already integrated with the exchange here on their web interface. And if you actually submit some buy and sell limit orders, you'll actually see that visualized on the chart here. And so just to show you that, I'm going to go ahead and run my Python gridbot script here, and you'll see what happens. I'm going to run this. It should execute a bunch of buy and sell limit orders. And there you go. You can see it right there. You see a bunch of sell limit orders right there. And if I zoom out, you should see, there's some buy limit orders as well. And so you can see with this particular trading bot, what we do is submit a number of evenly spaced buy limit orders below the current price and a number of evenly spaced sell limit orders above the price. And all we're going to really be doing is continuously running our Python code in a loop and checking on the status of these orders to determine whether an order has been filled. And depending on the conditions here, which buy or sell limit it hits here, we'll place another buy or sell order. And we're just going to keep doing that in an infinite loop until we decide to stop the bot or all of our position has been sold. Before we get started coding this, I want to give credit to a few GitHub repositories that I looked at here. If you go to github.com and search for gridbot, there's a variety of examples already here. If you want a Python gridbot example, there's this one by Chris Leaker, which is a Binance trading bot right here. And this is actually really comprehensive. So it has tons of examples. It has a lot of different configurations, Slack integration. It has a Docker file. It even has a front-end mobile interface, password protection, tons of different stuff you can build here. So that's a fully fledged example. I didn't want to do anything that complicated. I just want to keep this simple for the channel. So the bot I code here is going to be pretty similar to this one by Henderson Dow, since he's also using FTX and CCXT. There's also this leverage grid trading bot here that also uses CCXT and FTX. So if you want to see some other grid trading bots out there that use Python that have other different configurations and settings depending on your needs, be sure to go to GitHub and just search for gridbot. There's tons of examples out there you can follow. And hopefully this video showing me just build it up line by line will help explain it a little bit better so you'll know how to use these things. All right, let's go ahead and write some code. I have Visual Studio Code open right here. I'm going to create a couple of files. I'm going to create one called config.py where we're going to put some constants, API keys, that sort of thing. And then I'm going to create one called gridbot.py, and that's going to contain the logic for our actual order execution. And so in config.py, let's think about all the different settings we're going to need. And so what settings are we going to need? First of all, we're going to need an API key. You can store this in an environment variable. I just store it in a config file on this channel typically. So I have an API key and a secret key. And I'm just going to define that. I'm going to fill in these strings off the camera. But on FTX, all you need to do is go to the top right-hand corner, click on API, and you can actually generate an API key right here. That's going to be below, and you just copy that, and you can put it into the script. If you decide to use another exchange here that's supported by CCXT, just copy your API key and secret key for whatever exchange it is, and you should be able to use it right here. The code should be mostly the same. So what other settings are we going to need? Well, we need a symbol that we're going to trade. So I'll just define this here, and you can change it to a different symbol if you want. So I'm going to do ETHUSD. I'm using ETHUSD with a slash in it because if you're using FTX directly, this is what the symbol is. If you're using Binance, I think it's ETHUSDT. So make sure the symbol you put here matches whatever exchange you're using. I'm going to create another variable called position size, and this is just going to control how much of ETH you buy. And so I'm going to do 0.001 just because I'm testing this out right now, and I'm not going to buy like 1 ETH at a time until I make sure this is working properly. So let's just use small amounts here. That way we can see how this works. Next, we're going to define some other settings for our grid bot. And so we need some settings for our grid bot. So grid bot settings here. And what do we need, right? When we have a grid bot, we have a bunch of different lines for selling, and they're evenly spaced. And so we want to define a certain number of grid lines. You can either define the total number of grid lines and divide that in 2, but I'm just going to create a num by grid lines like this. So num by grid lines, and we're going to say there's 5 limit buys below the current price, and then we'll do num sell grid lines, and we'll have 5 sell grid lines that are above the current price. And then the grid size we're going to define, and that's how far these lines should be apart. And so if I think they should be like $3 apart, for instance, I can do a grid size of 3. Now in reality, you probably want your grid size to be a little bit larger. You want those lines to be a little bit further spaced apart. But for the purposes of a live video that I'm recording where there'll be actual trades executed, I want to make sure a number of them execute while this is recording rather than waiting all day. And so I'm making them fairly close together. Now, after we place the initial 5 buy and sell limit orders, we need to start checking on those orders in a loop. Remember, we want to check to see if those limit orders were filled, and we need to check on them at a certain frequency. We don't need to do it every millisecond, but every couple of seconds we should be checking in on these orders to see whether they've filled or not. But we don't want to exceed any kind of API throttling, so we don't want to do it too frequently. So I'm going to do a variable setting here called check orders frequency. And this is just going to be the number of seconds between checking on the orders in a loop. So I'm going to do a check orders frequency, and I'm just going to check every 2 seconds for now. Okay, and you can adjust that if you want to check every second. Okay, and then I'm going to do a status that I'm going to check on. Now FTX, I'm not sure if every exchange the status is closed like this, but on FTX the closed order status is closed. And rather than just write that string in, I'm just going to use a constant here so that I don't check on a hard-coded string. All right, so let's switch over to the gridbot.py here. I'm going to give this a run so that my terminal opens. And first thing we need is, since we're using CCXT, we got to make sure we install that. So I'm going to do pip install CCXT. I should already have that installed, but if you don't, that's how you install it. And then I'll be able to import it. So I'm going to do import CCXT. And I'm also going to be using, obviously, the config file I just defined. So I'm going to import config. I'm also going to be running this script in a loop on a timer. So I'm going to be using time, and then I'm also going to import sys because I'm going to use sys.exit to stop the bot at any given time if we match a particular condition. So now that we got that going, the first thing we need to do is actually connect to the exchange and configure our connection with our API key. And so I'm going to do exchange equals CCXT dot, and with CCXT, you can just type the name of the exchange. So I'm using FTX US, but you can also, if you're using Binance, you see how it has Binance.com, Binance US, and so forth. So depending on where you're at, you're going to use a different exchange, and all those are listed down here. So if you have Binance US, you just do .Binance US, and if you use Coinbase Pro, that's there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I'm going to use FTX US, so I'm going to do FTX US, and all you need to do is pass it a dictionary with API key, and my API key is in my config file. So I'm going to do config.api key, and I'm going to do a secret, and then I'm going to do config.secret key, which I already defined. So once we have our exchange configured here, the first thing we're going to do is fetch what the current bid and ask price is, and that's what we're going to use as a basis for all of our different grid lines. So I can do a ticker equals exchange.fetch ticker, and it looks like it has an underscore in it. So fetch ticker, and I'm going to do config.symbol since I defined it outside the script. And then I'm going to just print the ticker out right here, and let's see if we get a response. And that'll let us know if we're able to successfully talk to FTX. And there you go. I pulled it back, and we have this dictionary here, has a symbol, and you can see the bid and ask is in here. There's the ask 3144.90, and the bid is 3144.80 right here. So we have a bid and ask price, and we're good to go. And so when our script kicks off, we're going to place some initial buy and sell limit orders, and we need to keep track of those. So we're going to create a couple of Python lists to store the order objects that come back. So I'm going to create a list called buy orders and a list called sell orders right here. And that'll be a list of our orders. So we're going to submit an order, get the response, and we're going to put that response in buy orders. That way we have the price it was filled at, we have the order ID, and a way to reference the details of that order locally. Okay, so I'm creating two new variables called buy orders and sell orders. Okay. And then so at the very beginning, when we run this trading bot, right, remember when you have a grid trading bot here, you have 5 or more buys below the current price and 5 or more sells above the current price, right? And so we're going to keep track of these. And so whenever I make each of these buy orders, I'm going to get the response, stuff it in a list, and then I'm going to keep checking on those orders to see which ones have been filled or not, right? And then likewise, I'm going to keep track of the different sell orders I submit and then stuff those in my sell orders list, okay? And so let's think about what can happen here. So at the beginning, we can run this program and the price here can either fall to our buy lines, right? In which case this first limit buy will execute, then the second limit buy order, third buy, however far it falls, it'll execute each of those limit buy orders. And likewise, as the price goes up, these sell limit orders can get filled as well. So at the very beginning, the price can either fall or rise, right? So what if the price goes up instantly to this sell order, and then this sell order, and this sell order, but we haven't yet bought any, right? So we won't have anything to sell if it goes up first. So what I'm going to do is when this program starts up, I'm just going to go ahead and submit a market buy order out of the gate for 5 times the position size. That way, if the price goes up right after I start the bot and each of these sell orders gets filled and the price is going up, we'll just sell each of those and we'll be out and it'll just be a profit right there. So if you just look at the CCXT documentation on GitHub, you can scroll down to the Python examples. That's how I knew how to configure my exchange with the API key and secret. Looks just like that, and you just choose your exchange and write it just like that. And then below here, you can see how to create a market buy and sell order and a limit buy order and so forth. And so I'm going to create a market buy order just like that, create my market buy order, and it just needs a symbol and a quantity. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do exchange.create market buy order like that. And we just need a symbol and a quantity. I defined a symbol and a position size in my config file. So I'm going to give it config.symbol and config.position size. Position size in this case was 0.001, but remember I wanted the number of grid lines times the position size to make sure I have enough if I just hit all the cell lines. So I'm going to do config.position size times config.num cell grid lines. And then I'll make sure I buy like 0.005 or however much you decide for your position size and number of grid lines. It'll buy that quantity right at the gate. And then I can just look at, I'll just call this initial buy order just so you can see what the order response looks like. And I'll print this out. So I'll do print initial buy order just like that. And let's go ahead and run this and let's look at our order history. So I'm going to go to my order history here and I just want to show you that this executes. And so I'm going to run this script here with the initial buy order and you see it returned a response and you can see I submitted a buy market order size 0.005. If I look at my FTX order history and refresh, you should see, yeah, there's the buy market and you see my average fill price right there. And you see I spent $15.71 there. And now I have my 0.005 ETH out of the gate. And now I'm ready to submit those limit buy and sell orders. So let's go ahead and submit our initial limit buys and sells to actually create this grid of buys and sells. And so I'm going to do for I in range. And so we're submitting 5 of them, right? Well, we want it to be configurable, so we'll use our config value here. So I'm going to do config.num buy grid lines, and we'll submit all of our buys first. So I'm going to do some limit buy order. So I'm going to do order equals exchange.create limit buy order. So we're going to create a limit buy order. And what price do we want to use, right? What price do we want to use? Well, we have the initial price when our program first runs, and we've already fetched that into our variable called ticker here. So we have a bid price. So I can just say price equals ticker bid here. That's if I wanted to create the limit buy order at the very price it was when the program starts. But I don't want to use the initial bid price. I want to do it at one level below the bid price. So we have this variable grid size. And so remember I set that to 3. And so if ETH was trading at 31.43, I actually want to submit a limit buy order at 31.40 or 3 below, and then 1 below that at 31.47, 31, 34, and so forth in intervals of 3. So what I can do is ticker bid, and I'm going to just subtract to bid less than that, and I'm going to use my config. So I'm going to subtract config.grid size and then times whatever buy number I'm on. So if this is on the number 0, I want to subtract, I guess I'll add 1 to it, right? Since this starts at 0, I want to add 1 to that. So I'll do I plus 1 times grid size. And so if I is 0, this will become I plus 1, which will be 1 times grid size. So 1 times 3, and I'll do the bid minus 3. When this loop goes around again to 1, it'll add 1 plus 1 is 2. The grid size will be 6, and I'll subtract 6 from the bid price, and so forth. So you see my price is just going down by grid size amount in this loop, and then I'm going to create my limit buy order. And my limit buy order takes a symbol, an amount, and a price. So I'm going to do my config.symbol. I'm going to do config.position size. And then the price that I just calculated there, right? That part's dynamic. These two come from my config file. So config.symbol, config.position size, and this dynamic price right here, okay? And let's go ahead and log this. I'm gonna do like just a print statement, and I'm gonna say submitting limit market buy order, or market limit buy order at, and I'm gonna do a dot format, and then I'll put the price there just so we see that what price we're submitting it at. And then after I submit the order, this is going to actually return a value, and this return value, I'm going to store it in order, and then I'm going to append that order to my order list. So I have that buy orders list that I defined up here. I'm just going to append that order response into buy orders. Okay, so I'll do buy orders.append order. So submit one, go one level down, submit another one, go one level down, and then I'll have this list of 5 buy orders like that. And that's looking pretty good. And then likewise, I'm gonna do for I in range, and I can just copy this. You can actually probably combine this logic into one thing. I'm just gonna be a little bit redundant here and copy it. So I'm gonna do a copy there. So I'll do for I in range, and I'm gonna do num cell grid lines, just like that. So num cell grid lines, and then I'm gonna do, instead of ticker bid minus the grid size, I can do ticker bid plus grid size. So if my bid price is 31.40 when it starts, I'm going to add to that. So 31.43, 46, 49, 52, and so forth. So this number is counting up this time, right? And then for each of these, I'm submitting a market limit sell order at a certain price. And then instead of calling create limit buy order, I'm going to call create limit sell order, config, position size, and price. And then I'm going to append this order to sell orders. And that should be good to go. And so let's go ahead and run this, and let's see what one of these order objects look like. So I'm going to do for order in buy orders, and I'm just going to print order so we see what these order objects look like. Okay, and let's just run this, and then on FTX we should see all these get submitted as well, and we should see our log messages in this console. So I'm going to run this and see what happens. Submitting market buy order, you see 31.39, 31.36, 31.33, 31.30, 31.27. So you see our 5 limit buy orders were submitted below, and then you see our limit sell orders were submitted above, 31.45, 48, 51, 54, and 57. And then you see I'm logging these buy orders. So each of these has an order dictionary with info here. Each of these orders have an ID, right? 4286. So this is an order ID. It has a fill price, and these have not filled yet. So you'll see a filled size. So 0 of these have been filled. And so these orders have just been submitted. They're waiting there in the queue. And then if I look over on my FTX here, and look at that, you see my grid has already been created. So this was the price when I ran my script around 31.43. I submitted the 5 sell limit orders above and 5 buy limit orders below. So we already got a grid here, so that's looking good. And if these hit, these will actually execute and run. And so that's great. We're programmatically submitting trades, limit orders to FTX. And now all we have to do is monitor these open orders that are in our list on a schedule and then make adjustments as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and go to orders here, and you see I have these open limit orders that are all waiting there in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and cancel these for now. So I'm just going to delete these because I'm going to start fresh. So I'm going to delete these because I don't actually want them to fill until my script is done. So those are all canceled right now. So back in the code here, you see that I've submitted all these orders, and each of these order objects has this key info, and then it has a dictionary right there. So just so that I don't have to write info over and over again and like two different keys, I'm just going to append, instead of appending the whole order object, I'm going to append order info like that. That way, each of these by orders I loop through, it'll just have this dictionary right here. All right, so now I'm just going to focus on my timing loop that's checking on all of these open orders. And so I'm going to remove this part, and I'm just going to do a while true loop right here. And this is going to run an infinite loop over and over again. We can technically run this bot forever if we don't place any stopping conditions. And so I'm going to comment all of this out for a second just to focus on the loop part. I don't want to submit any orders. I just want to debug and test this new part I'm writing here. So while true here, what are we going to do? Well, first of all, I'm just going to print a message saying print checking for open buy orders every couple seconds. Or I'm just going to say checking for open buy orders. And then I can just use time.sleep. So I'm going to do time.sleep. And this is going to be how frequently I'm going to check. So while true, this is essentially adding a delay here. And so I'm going to do time.sleep config dot, and then we made this one called check orders frequency, like that. And so since I set this to 2 seconds, what this actually does, it's going to say checking for open buy orders. It's going to wait for 2 seconds, and then this loop is going to run again, check for open buy orders, wait for 2 seconds, and so forth. So I'm going to run that just so you see this happen. So I'm going to do that. And you see it's checking for open buy orders, checking for open buy orders, wait 2 seconds, checking for open buy orders. This is running continuously in a loop. So inside that loop, what do I want to do? I just want to check on each of the order IDs that's in my list here and see if those orders are filled yet or not. So I'm going to stop that. I'm just going to Control C out of that. And so instead of just sleeping here, before I sleep, I am going to check on all of my buy orders. So I'm going to do for buy order in buy order. So let's check on all the buys first. And so what I can do is order equals, and I'm actually going to check the exchange to see whether or not those orders have been filled. So I'm going to do exchange dot fetch order. So you can do fetch order like that, or fetch underscore order like that. And you just need to give it an order ID. And you remember in our order structure, we stored this order info dictionary, and that has an ID key in there. And so what I can do is fetch the buy order ID. So I'm going to do buy order ID like that. And then I should be able to fetch that order and see what its status is, okay? And so let's see if we have anything. So I'm going to do print order like that. And let's see if this successfully fetches order by ID. So I'm going to run this again. Checking for open buy orders, checking for open buy orders, and it's not finding any open buy orders, and that's because I just commented this bit out. So I'm going to stop that. I'm going to go up here and let it actually submit these limit buy orders real quick. So I'm going to comment that out. So I'm going to submit the limit buy orders, and then I'm going to check on their status and print them. So let me do that. So I'm going to run this, submitting a bunch of limit buy orders, which is great. And there you go. You see those order status objects, these order info objects are getting printed. It's waiting 2 seconds, checking for them, checking them, and so forth. And so now we have a way to continuously check on these orders. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and delete all these pending orders while I'm testing so that those don't execute yet. Okay, so we have a way to fetch our orders. One thing I'm also going to add here is I found when I continuously run this in a loop over and over again and pull the server, every once in a while you'll get some kind of connection timeout or lose connection. And so what you can do here is just a try catch here, just to catch any exceptions. So I'm going to do try except and just catch a generic exception. So if any exceptions occur, I'll just say request failed, retrying, and then I'll just write continue here. Okay. And what this is going to do is if this particular request fails, the next time this runs again, it's going to run a couple seconds. It'll just run it again and it'll succeed and keep going. And if you want to make more complex retry logic in here, you can. So what I'll do now is for each of these orders that I fetched back, you see I have info here. We just need to check on the status of the order. And so you should see an attribute called status in here. Yeah, so you see it says status right there and it said status open. Now when this order is actually filled, it'll be status closed. And we define that closed string inside of our config file. And so all we need to do is check on this order. And this has the info key. So I'm just going to do order equals order info and just reassign this. That way order just has this part right here, right? And so what I just need to do now is check if the order info, actually let me call this order underscore info, and I'll just say if order info status is equal to config dot closed order status. So if the status is closed, then we need to take further action, right? And so for a grid bot, what do we want to do when a buy order is hit right here, when this is filled? Well, what you do is, if you want to run this grid bot infinitely, is you submit another limit cell order above right here, right? And so as soon as we detect that this order status is filled, we can go ahead and create a limit cell order. So I'm going to create a new cell order. So I'll just create a variable called new cell order to store the object that comes back here. And I'll just do exchange again, and I'll do create limit cell order. And we want to create a limit cell order for a particular symbol. And that symbol is config.symbol. And then we want to order a certain amount, which is just position size. We want to just keep the same position size. And we want to create the cell order at a new price. And what price do we want to submit here, right? Well, let's calculate that. So our new cell price here is going to be the price that this was filled at. So our filled price here plus our position size. So we're going to take the buy order, add position size to it, and submit a limit cell order at that price. So my new cell price will be the order info here, order info price plus config.grid size, right? Just like that. And then I will use this new cell price right there. And yeah, we'll submit this cell, and then we just need to tack this onto our list. So I'll do a cell orders dot append our new cell order, right? So then we have a list of cell orders with our new cell order, and then this cell order will be open, and all of our open orders will be inside of this cell orders list, and all of our open buy orders will be tracked in the buy orders list. And so since this buy order here was actually filled in this situation, we probably want to remove that from the list, right? I want those buy order lists and sell order lists to just have orders that are currently open that we're checking on, and as soon as it's closed, let's just remove that from the list so that we don't keep checking on that order. There's nothing to do with that order anymore once it's been filled. So before we loop through all the orders, let's go ahead and keep track of a list here called closed order IDs, and these are the ones we can just delete from the list at the very end. So I'm going to keep track of my closed order IDs in a list. And so since this buy order was filled here, right, so the status is closed, I can go ahead and remove that ID from the list. So I'm going to do closed order IDs dot append order info ID, just like that. And then we have a list of order IDs that were closed. And after we go through our buy and sell order loops, we'll go ahead and filter out these closed order IDs. That way our lists are nice and clean. The other thing I want to do here is print what's actually happening as it happens. That way when we're watching the script and debugging it, we know what's going on, or we can log it to a file. I'm just going to do a print for now. So I'm going to do print, and I'm going to say, we're going to print that an order was filled. So I'm going to say buy order executed at, and I'm going to show the price it was executed at. So I'm going to do dot format, and then I'm going to do order info price like that, and we'll know each time a buy order is executed. And then since I'm submitting a new cell order here, I'll also print a message saying that we're going to submit a new cell order. So I'm going to do creating new limit cell order at, and I'm going to put the price. So I'm going to do format new cell price, just like that, right? So we have a log of what's going on, and then we sleep again. So what we're doing so far is at the beginning, we're submitting some buys and sells. I have the sells commented out right now. So at the beginning, we're going to submit all our buy and sell limit orders. And then in this loop, we're going to keep track of any orders that are closed. We're going to go through all the buy orders. We're going to fetch them by ID. And then for each of those, we're going to check on the order status. And if that order has closed, if we have an open buy order that was closed, we're going to append that ID to closed order IDs, and then we're going to create a new cell limit order. We're calculating that cell limit order's price by taking the price this buy order was filled at and then adding grid size to it, and then we're submitting a new limit cell order on top of that, and then we're tracking all of our open orders inside of these buy and sell order lists, And then since an order ID was closed, we're appending it to a closed order ID list, and we'll go through and clean up our by order list so that it only has the open orders, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and add that delay. I'm gonna make this part of the for loop here. That way, each time we call this fetch order, it waits a couple seconds so that we don't hammer this too hard quite yet. Okay, and then I think this should be all right. So let me go ahead, and I realize I'm copy and pasting this twice. Technically, you can combine these and probably make this more modular in functions. So, and use functions if you want to. If you want to have one order list and then just have track, see if it's side by or side cell, and put a bunch of if conditions as well. So there's multiple ways to do it. This is fine. And so I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing again. And you really shouldn't copy and paste big blocks of code like this, but it's just a YouTube video, so it's okay. So I'm going to do for by order. So what I want to do now is loop through all of my cell orders. So I'm going to do for cell order in cell orders here. And so we're going to check on each cell order just the same. So I'm going to do a cell order. So for each cell order, I'm going to check on that cell order's ID, right? And I'm going to fetch it, right? And then store the order info. That's exactly the same. We're going to check the status if it's closed. If it's closed, we can append it to the list. And then our print statement can be cell order executed at, and then our new buy price. So if the cell order fills here, we're going to do one grid size down and place another limit buy order. And so here, instead of creating a new limit cell order, we're going to create a new limit buy order. And then we're going to do a new buy price. And that buy price is going to be one grid size below. So we're going to subtract grid size and then have a new buy price, right? So we're creating a new limit buy price that is grid size below the cell orders filled price, and then we're creating a new buy order, and we're creating a limit buy order with a new buy price, and then we're going to append this to buy orders, right? And yeah, you can probably simplify this logic with some different if-then conditions, since a lot of this code is repetitive here, but I'm fine with this for now. So I think that's pretty good. So that's how you loop through the cell orders. And then we'll have one more loop just to clean this up. So I'm going to do for order ID in closed order IDs, and I'm just going to filter out each of these lists and then remove all the closed orders. So I'm going to do by orders equals by order for by order in by order. So this is a Python list comprehension, and then I'm just going to say if by order ID is not equal to closed order ID. Or what would I call it? Order ID. If not equal to order ID. Okay. And so what this is doing is it's just creating a new list called by orders, and it's going to filter out any of the closed order IDs from it. That way we only have the open orders in this list. And then same thing here, my cell orders. It's just going to be like that. Cell orders equals cell order for cell order in cell orders if cell order ID is not equal to order ID. So we're filtering these lists and removing any closed order IDs. And you could use a Python filter and use a Lambda function here, and you can do this in a number of ways. So I'm realizing this is getting a little bit repetitive, but for the purposes here, I think it's pretty easy to follow if I write it all out in the buys and sells separately. Feel free to combine these into functions. And at the end here of this loop, so we're still in our loop here where we're checking on all of our orders. And then at some point we need to break out of this loop if we want to stop the bot. So you can either manually stop it with Control-C, or you can code in some condition. And so what I'm going to do is if there's no cell orders left, I'm going to do if length of cell orders is equal to 0, then I can stop it. So I'm going to do sys.exit, and I'll say stopping bot, nothing left to sell, right? And why is that going to happen? How can that happen? Well, if all those cell orders eventually close, then all of those cell orders will be filtered out, and this list will be 0 in length. And then if the length is 0, then we can stop the bot. Another thing you can do is if you hit the very lowest buy order price, maybe you want to go ahead and liquidate because you're worried it's going to keep dropping, you can code that in as well. So let's go ahead and run this. I notice I have checking for open buy orders here, and I'm not logging the cell orders. Let me go ahead and change this print line here. So for each buy order, I'll just do print checking buy order dot format. And so let's just go ahead and log these individuals. Checking buy order ID, just like that. And then in the sell order, I'm going to check the sell order. So I'm going to do for sell order and sell order. I'm going to check a sell order ID just like that. Okay, so checking sell order just like that. And we should be good. And I feel like I want to check more frequently than every 2 seconds. And so I'm going to do every 1 second. Okay. So let me go ahead and run this and see how it goes. Okay, submitting market limit buy order, limit sell order. So it's checking. So you see in our loop, we're checking on all the individual buy orders. We're checking on all the individual sell orders. If I go over to FTX, you see I have open buy and sell orders. If I go look at my chart here, you'll see that my grid is indeed in place. And yeah, let's go ahead and observe this and see what happens. So our grid lines are pretty close here, so we should see some buys and sells occur and see this chart update with additional buys and sells depending on what happens. So it's finally falling a bit. It's at 31.2970. Okay, I'm hoping it hits that 31.2950 there, and we actually see our buy order execute and then a sell order automatically appear above. Wait, there it goes. Okay, you see it hit the buy order and those were filled. And I think it's about to hit another one. And you should see, you see how this just failed here. So this order info price is actually, I think it gets returned as a string. And so I need to cast it to a float here. And so I need to fix that. And we're going to need to run it again. So this order info price minus grid size and plus grid size, I'm going to cast this to a float here. To avoid that error message. And this other one up here, I need to do the same thing as well. So make sure your data types are right, just like that. And unfortunately, I have to run this again. All right, so I canceled all my orders and I fixed that bug. I also noticed that I have on buy orders.append, I left new sell order right there, but I really wanted to append this new buy order here. So another typo right there. And then now I think we're okay. So I'm gonna leave the final code here so you don't have to make that mistake, but you can watch me make it. So there's my chart. You see we're all clear. There's no orders on this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and run this one more time. And you should see our grids fill up. There you go, so 5 buy orders, 5 sell orders, and then Ethereum is at 31.31 now. And I went ahead and made my grid size here a little bit smaller just so that I don't have to wait as long to watch this execute on camera. So nice and close here. And then what's Ethereum at? 31.30. And so it just needs to hit either 31.3280, which is the first sell, or 31.2880 here, which is the first buy. Finally, the price moved up. Oh, good. Okay, so it hit a sell order just then, another sell order, right? And then we should see it submit a new buy order, hopefully. Yeah, so some new buy orders came in. So you see those buy orders come in, which is great. So those buy orders are in place. And there you go. It hit a buy order, and it's going down still. Let's see if it hits another buy order. And you should see another, yeah, there you go. A sell order got submitted. See, it says creating new sell limit order at 31.34.8. And so let's go ahead and scroll up and see what happened here, because that happened kind of fast. Like nothing happened for a while, and then it finally popped, and then things started happening. So you can see that a sell order executed. So at the beginning when I was showing this, this spiked up here, and it hit that 31.32.80. That order filled, and then it created a new buy order below at 31.30.80. So you can see that buy order. So it created a new sell order executed, then it submitted a new limit buy order at 31.30.80, which you can see is still there. And then another sell order executed at 31.34.80. So it spikes. You see where 31.34.80 is. It spiked up there. It hit a sell order. It executed. Then it submitted a new limit buy order at 31.32.80. And where is that? It looks like it fell back down and already hit that buy order. So if I scroll down here, you'll see, yeah. So it submitted that new buy order. a buy order executed at 31.32.80, like right there, and then it submitted a new sell order at 31.34.80. So even though it already hit that one up there, it already went down, hit a buy order, then submitted another one, and that's why we still see a 31.30.80 right there. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Nothing happened for a bit. You see I started and it was completely flat for a minute, but as soon as this spike happened, you see we hit 2 of our limit sell orders. We submitted 2 more limit buy orders, and those buy orders were hit, and then we submitted new limit sell orders, and so we still have this grid going here, and it's running continuously in a loop. And if I scroll down, you can see it's still checking for new buys and sell orders, and we're maintaining this list of buy and sell orders, and yeah, checking for them and submitting new ones and reacting as needed. And if we run out of sell orders, we're just stopping the bot. So yeah, I'm going to post the code, link it down below, and then you can modify this script as needed if you want to add additional logic, change the grid size, change the timing, change how these orders are managed, however you want to do it. Feel free to make modifications. And yeah, I hope you learned something here. Hope you enjoyed the Python version of the grid bot. Let me know if you're interested in hooking up Python and JavaScript together, or if I should just move on to another topic and just continue to use Python. Anyway, have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. See you next time.